Julianna, R.C. Williams and Julianna Ormond. They are a husband and wife team, and they are co-founders of Watchmen Action, a 501c3 nonprofit organization committed to equipping the church to engage the culture by empowering people to build advocacy plans to tackle the core issues that matter to them the most. The organization has grown out of the co-founder's success with their research and behavioral marketing firm, Sherlock. That success led to the launch of their 2 publications, Ripped from the Headlines, which breaks down what the news means, and We Are the Watchmen Weekly, which connects the dots between current events and scripture. They are authors of the book Empowered, the number 2 Act. If you haven't read that, you definitely need to. It's maintaining the pillars of patriotism. And if you want more information on them, you can find that at watchmenaction.org. Do me a favor and put your hands together. Welcome R.C. Williams and Julianna Ormond to the stage.
Hi, everyone.
Hey guys, long time no see. Apparently I scared a fair number of you. And I apologize for that. It wasn't me, it was the content. That's what Bev told me, so I'm gonna stick with that. So guys, this panel is exciting. What we thought we would do is get great minds together in an attempt to craft some hypothetical language that could be used to get something into law. And so we lucked out with the panel that we've got. We've got incredible experience and some great opinions from the group on the panel. So guys, we want to give you 2 minutes to introduce yourself. Doug, we'll start with you down at the end and we'll work our way there.
All right, thank you. My name is Doug Bankson, and I am a state representative for District 39, which is Orange County, part of Seminole. But I'm actually a pastor. That's my high call. But we're all called to serve. And so it's just very interesting being in both of these lanes. I'm a husband, father, and grandfather of 5. That's kind of my favorite right there. I'm a pilot as well. But I'm very excited that, to me, I don't see problems. I see opportunities. Man, do we have opportunities. You know, we need to understand the enemy is not people. It's the one who Jesus defeated at Calvary. And we need to understand he is bringing forth his ideas and trying to influence people. And so we need to make a strong stand. I'm excited to be here and privileged to be with these others.
Excellent. My name is Justin Sharpless. I am the vice chair of the Polk County School Board. Oh, I got a round of applause. I feel good. First, I want to say welcome to the church that I attend, Highpoint Church. I hope you felt welcomed here, and I hope you feel at home. Thank you for all the organizations here for using this church as a light. We truly want to be a community church, not just a church in the community. Having said that, I am the husband of a middle school teacher. I'm currently a college professor. I've been that for 10 years at Warner University, which is a liberal arts Christian university here in Lake Wales. And so I truly believe that in education and even at the college level, we are helping to influence society. And so I'm very thankful that I teach at a conservative Christian university. Also, the reason that I ran for school board, I have 3 boys. There's a lot of testosterone in my house. I have an 8-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And making an education system for them is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart. In fact, I can remember the day that I was sitting in church with a relatively young newborn child that's now 8. And my pastor, Pastor Jack, who was up here earlier, challenged us. He said, as a church, we can't just draw away from society. Someone's going to drive the culture, and we need to be a part of that. And so the Holy Spirit convicted me to run, and I was elected in 22 to our county school board, and I've truly enjoyed that. And I've actually filed for re-election in 26, so I want to put that plug in there too.
All right.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm just being obedient to what the Lord has called me to do. So thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Good evening. Good evening. Hi, yeah. So my name's Jan Edwards, and I'm the president of Paving the Way Foundation, and we do human trafficking awareness and prevention education specifically for young people. And I want you to note I'm the only woman up here that's also not an elected official. So although I do a lot of advocating, so we do a lot of work at the state level and up in DC because we're with kids every single week. We've educated over 42,000 young people and parents in the past 9 years, in person, in small groups. So yeah, so we have a lot of conversations, all right, and we have, so I bring the perspective of the people we're trying to protect. Is every single day our kids tell us what they're up against. Every day they're targeted by bots, by predators, trying to lure them into a life that no one would choose. And policy is one of the few ways we can actually alter that the other way. And I loved what Mary said. If you follow me on Facebook, I say it a lot. We are the we the people part of the Constitution. If we're a citizen, it is our duty to tell our elected officials how we feel about things and why it's important to us. And if they don't hear from all sides, they can't make the best decisions and the best choices. And I was at a conference last night, and I was sharing this with former Speaker Renner, possible future governor. We'll see, right? Whatever God says is what's going to happen. Is we had a piece of legislation last year that would make buying a person a felony. And a senator looked at my friend Alan Welkett in the face and said, not one constituent has called me and told me that's important to them. That's the importance of you. That's why this is important. You have a duty to our country, to your city, to your neighborhood, to when you leave here, take a real live action and let people know why this is important to you, why we've got to veer the AI train to another track so we can do some other stuff with it, because it's our future that they're building. And if we don't have a say in it, it's not going to go how we know it needs to go. Thank you.
Thanks, Jan. Speaker Renner.
Well, it's great to be here with you, and my most important role is as a husband and father of a 5-year-old daughter, Abigail, and a 3-year-old son, William. And started in public service. Well, my dad was a minister, mom was a school teacher, but started in public service at age 23 during Operation Desert Storm, 20 years in the military, 2 wars, former state attorney, and as was mentioned, former Speaker of the House. Not this last year when they were fighting, but all the good conservative stuff we did 2 years prior. And so it's great to be here with you to talk about a very, very important topic. And I'll just, as a preface to some of the questions, say that we cleared out a lot of things in 2023 in that session that one group called the Session of the Century. And I thought, what are we going to do next? And I would have told you then that kids are online too much, but what's the big deal? And some members provided me with some reading materials, and I got through them. It was difficult to get through them, with kids taking their own lives, not knowing what reality they were in, whether it was a video game or real life, and realized that one of the last things we did together with Representative Banks and others is to protect children online. We had a bill that combined protections against online pornography, but also one that protected them against social media. And these algorithms that are there surveilling your child and knowing more about them than you as a parent know about them. AI is going to take that to an order of magnitude higher than where we are today. And so, look, I think most people in this room would agree that Western civilization is at stake. We're in a battle that's not only it first and foremost is a spiritual battle, and that what we see with Charlie Kirk and the shootings is the lack of an anchor in the storms of life, and that anchor for me is Jesus Christ. So you combine that lack of an anchor with social media that takes our children to a deep, dark place, and the algorithms have no moral compass. And so the other thing I'll say that was alluded to in the original panel is the biggest distinction, it was referred to as a mind, is there's one thing that we have that the animals don't have. What is that? It's a soul, it's a spirit. AI does not have a spirit. We are eternal spirits. We are fleshly beings. We're mortal beings. Our physical bodies go away. Our spirits never go away. So I think the key thing before we get started is to think about AI in that context. I don't know that you can ever, to answer the question that was posed earlier, have an AI that can, bring you to Jesus, because there's no spirit there. It is a soulless piece of technology. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't be used for good and medical diagnoses, and there's things that it can do that are very powerful, and I'm not going to be on the stage to tell you that we're going to stop that technology or that it doesn't do some miraculous things for us. But especially with respect to our children, their brains are not in a position where they can step back from that harm, and we really need to step in very quickly to protect them. So I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Another round of applause for our panelists, please. As we get started here, we do welcome your questions. This is a working session, so we do welcome your questions. We're going to try to piece together as much as we can. My understanding is we can't get the writing on the screen in real time, but since this is being recorded, all of the notes will be collected, and whatever we come up with and you come up with will be made available. So let's go ahead and get started. Justin, I'd like to come to you first. Home game for you. Congratulations. So you sit at the district level. As Mary Flynn O'Neill mentioned in the first panel, all politics are ultimately local. What do you think has to be in a potential Florida statute so that school boards can adopt this type of policy without outsourcing value? So what is it going to take if something is done at the state level for you guys to easily implement it at the district level or the county level?
Well, I would first say, in 2022, I ran on a strong parental rights movement. You saw that with the governor getting involved with many races around the state. And so I think, number one, we have to, where applicable, keep local governance in there, because parents are the ones that are electing school board members, right? And making sure that there's a parental rights component in this legislation. School boards set the purpose of AI in that district. Also the limits of AI, which is really important. And then also with that parental rights, we need to have an opt-out system for certain. So where if a parent, no matter what piece of technology it is, but especially like you said with AI, if a parent doesn't feel comfortable with their kids and being involved in that, there needs to be an opt-out system. And I know later we'll have a discussion a little bit about that. But then that would be the first thing. The second thing, we have to have strong student data protections, especially, and transparency in the technology. A few things that I've written down is, number one, student data privacy should not be controlled by a vendor. It needs to be controlled by the district, which is accountable to the parents, first of all. There should be no AI training on identifiable student data. So any of the student data, AI should not be able to be trained on that. That would be a major issue. And then also, the districts need to disclose how the AI that the programs are using, how they make their decisions. That needs to be disclosed. And then the last point I'll say is there has to be human oversight, and there needs to be a list of prohibited uses. There has to be, because it's so vast in everything we do. In some areas that I wrote down here, high stakes areas, sensitive areas like discipline, student discipline, that AI should not be involved in that. Grading, AI should not be involved in that. And then any kind of employment decisions. So not only are we dealing with students, but we're also dealing with employees. So AI should not be in employment-making decisions at all in our school districts. So that would be the top three areas.
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. So Speaker Renner, if you can pass it down. Thank you. My question to you is, I'll start by saying that I had a friend that was trying to pass a bill, and the pushback she got was on the word grooming. They didn't like the word grooming. They weren't allowed to use it. So my question is, if we were constructing this bill, what headings could we use so courts cannot blur them later? So like definitions, parental rights, vendor duties, prohibited use, enforcement, implementation.
Well, I mean, just the issue of good drafting is important. We have bill drafting here in the legislature, professionals that you tell them this is what we want, and they draft it, and you look at it and say that's not quite what we want. And so it's incumbent on legislators to dig in and make sure that the actual language reflects the intent of what you're trying to achieve. It's got, in the case of the social media bill, I spent hours with our House and Senate sponsors going over the First Amendment aspects. And so you can guarantee that, because they did it with us, every lobbyist in town is going to be with big tech, and they're going to be opposing this bill. I'm a huge believer in the First Amendment. Our addiction, and so if you think about social media and AI, just it's a very neat overlay, I think. When you take addiction, children, and monetizing those children, it sounds like trafficking, right? And that's exactly what the social media platforms are doing. They're using these algorithms, they're gathering up all this information on your child, and they put it together and they sell it to advertisers. So they, even if your child doesn't post a birthday, they know how old they are, they know all these things about them, they know their taste and preferences, again, better than you do, better than I do as a parent, and monetize that. And so you have to be careful, because they're going to have a lot of money to come in and say you're infringing on content or free speech. We didn't touch any of that. We just focused on, so in this case, you have to focus on the harms and not focus on any of the content pieces. I think when it comes to AI and education, and this may not be a direct answer to your question, but there's AI, learning about how AI will operate, let's say in the medical field and helping with a diagnosis or something. And there's, you hear things, we don't know where it's all headed, but it's really powerful and really helpful, right? That could really be something that can help us live better lives, longer, and improve our wellness, for example. Learning about that, like how AI applies in a field that you're studying, is, I think, a good thing, and we want our students to learn that. I'll give you an example. On the Board of Governors, I'm on the Board of Governors, and we have kids that are taking computer science degrees, and they're learning, because they were told they had to learn how to code. Well, they come out 4 years later, and AI is doing all the coding, or graphic design, AI is doing all the graphic design. We have to be on top of that and making sure we're changing that degree, and one of those changes could be learning how AI is now doing things, so you can be part of that operation. And so it may your degree looks very different, but learning how AI operates there. And so I think that's an acceptable part of AI in education. I don't see how AI as a substitute teacher really advances us. And if you look at the big tech leaders, their kids go to schools that have no tech. And so I think there's a reason for that. And so you need a human being, a teacher, that's kind of doing the conversation. So I think really dividing that line into learning about how AI applies in different fields and how you can be a part of it in your future career is one thing. Having it teach me and make judgments or guide me in places which, again, it has no spirit, no soul, no moral compass, is inherently problematic.
So can we talk about, when we're writing the bills, that they're A, grooming our children, right? And B, they're monetizing our children. I think that those 2 points are so important for the American people to really understand, because I don't think they know that these children are being groomed. And I don't think they know that these big tech technology people are making so much money off of these children.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Jan, I'd like to come to you. So you sit in a unique seat with advocacy. We've known each other for years.
Yes.
And so you work at the federal level, and you do some work at the state level, right? You're involved. So it's the push-pull between states and what the feds do. So in your opinion, given your experience with working at the federal level, what standards should Florida try to lock in now that would work at some level of harmony with the federal level without giving up state sovereignty?
It's like, and I still don't fully understand that question. We've had dialogue about that. I'm like, I don't know what you want me to say. So, sorry, I'm super transparent. I'm really authentic. When you work with kids, you kind of got to be authentic. So this is me. Here's the thing, and because I was just on a call earlier on my way here, the National Center for Sexual Exploitation, we have a call every Friday. It's called Section 230. Because we want Section 230 to be repealed for a variety of reasons. That's what most tech companies are hiding behind when our children are harmed. Set that aside for a second. So God bless Senator Hawley and Durbin. They're working together on a piece of legislation that is going to, because there's this gap between, is AI a product or a service? So we're going after, the bill's going to be launched on Monday, so this is like breaking news, to call it product liability, because you saw the two parents that went into the Senate, right, and said what they said. It's a product liability angle that they're looking at to actually create an environment such that they're held accountable for what the product does. Just like way back when, some of us are old enough to remember, we didn't always have seatbelts. Most of us, I know how many of you remember sitting on that little seat between, right? Yeah, remember? Y'all remember? Okay, yeah. And then so many people went through the windshield, they decided to do seatbelts. Technology is the only industry that has no regulation. Nothing. We're starting to put some guardrails up for our kids. We did that with the Take It Down Act. We did that with the Report Act. There's a whole bunch of other pieces of legislation at the federal level that we're trying to get passed, including the Kids Online Safety Act that alters the harmful algorithms, right? And they tried to get the AI moratorium in, and God bless Senator Blackburn, right? That got stopped. But you got to get the level of money that's coming in from the technology companies. I think the last dollar amount I figured was about $500 million for different PACs, for lobbyists to go in and convince our legislators that an AI regulatory moratorium is good for you and good for your, state, because fill in the blank why. With no cognition of the damage it's going to do to our children. Here's something I want you guys to think about. We didn't have AI chatbots 8 months ago. You put a moratorium for 10 years, what's going to happen? We have no idea. And I think there's an opportunity for us to work in tandem with those in DC, especially with leaders like this sitting right here. One of the articles I was reading is talking about that we need to create an AI consortium, an education consortium at the federal level, so we can actually start to implement the conversation, because humble personal opinion, right? Not speaking for anybody else, but for Jan. I think there's some data missing for people to make the right choices, because I truly believe if leadership fully grasped the harmful potential in what's happening, they would look at it slightly differently. And that's why it's imperative for you to pick up the phone and talk to your representatives at the federal level and the state level to let them know how you feel. I can't stress this enough. It takes 30 seconds. It's so simple to do, right? But your voice is the voice that's going to carry. They need to hear from you. You're the constituent, right? Gentlemen, you're okay. I'm the only non-politician up here. So that it's our voices that will carry them. And I think there's a real opportunity, RC, for us to take this bill that they're implementing on Monday and see, okay, how can we as a state look at that and go, okay, what kind of product liability? I love our AG. Our AG's going after it, man. And how can we sit down with him and be like, okay, if this is what's happening there, how do we mirror that to protect what might be missing there versus here? Because here's the other thing y'all need to know. We are the strongest state in the nation for anti-trafficking and child protection laws in the online space. Like, really, people look to us. I travel all over the country, and people are like, oh my gosh, you guys are so great with this. The anti-grooming law, it's huge. That now holds adults accountable for grooming a child online. But what happens if it's a bot? What happens if it's AI? Who's now responsible? So those are the kinds of questions unanswerable right now, but I think those are the kind of questions for us to act and marry back to your point, the critical thinking. We have to create an environment where our children actually do the thinking to solve the problems. We can't spoon feed them data anymore. We have to give them problems to solve, because when they graduate from high school and or college, the complex problems that they're going to have to deal with, we're not training them for. Someone might think AI is going to do that training for us. It's not. But what we can do is sit alongside it. I know Joe's going to be mad at me because I said something about a tool, but AI is kind of like a tool. Sorry, Joe. right? When the microwave came out, it was like, oh no, the convection oven's going to go away. Well, no, it didn't, because you can't make toast in a microwave. But we are going to have to be the ones to say something about AI. Where are the guardrails? Where are the protections for our children? Sam is trying to put, he's saying that he's putting protections on ChatGPT. I haven't seen it yet. And I don't know if you've seen anything about Grok. Grok has multiple personalities, including Annie. You want to be frightened, go look that up. So it's putting guardrails for our children, and age verification is what's going to make the difference. Humble opinion.
Thank you, Jan. You did.
You did. So Representative Bankson, playing off of what my good friend over here was talking about in community, you and I met because we were working together on legislation, the Legal Tender Act, which is a good level of community involvement was needed, right? So what's needed from the communities around the state to help make these protections a reality?
The right mindset, it starts there. Let me ask you this question. If you were to get on a tour bus tonight to head somewhere, which seat would you choose? Are you a front row person? Are you a back row, window, aisle, as long as you're not in the middle? I mean, which seat would you choose? To me, there's only one seat we should choose, the driver's seat.
That's right.
And it's time, yes, it's time that churches, it's so good that here we are tonight. So often we've listened to that lie, to be pacifists, just to go along, to get along. And it's like, no, wait a minute. This thing is steering itself now. There's no one in this driver's seat. It's the most dangerous thing for our children. And so being involved is the way to move the needle. We were able to pass, myself and Yarkowski, we did the grooming bill. And I demanded that we kept that word in there on the House side. And we passed it. Senate took the word out. They conned them out of that. But we were able to do that because we had a convincing argument. Thank God for Charlie Kirk. But you know what? I believe 1 million Charlie Kirks need to begin to rise up now. And to be educated. And, I always say you can't steer a parked car. Sometimes we think, I just don't know about this. I don't know what to do. Do something. Do what you do know. Start with what you do know and continue to educate yourself. Children are like... It's like mixing cement. I'm doing a project at my home right now, and cement only has so long before it cures, and so you have to mold it while it's moldable. And that's the problem. There are those who want to bring in, the speaker mentioned, AI has no conscience. That's what we have as with a soul, with a spirit. We have a conscience. There's no conscience. Who is steering the moral decisions about this? And so we've got to make sure that with this, again, as was mentioned, there are some things that it can be a benefit. It can be a help. It can be utilized as a tool. There are teachers who have said this has saved them tremendous amounts of time in lesson planning. But wait a minute. How about word questions that are slanted towards a particular viewpoint? So we have to have those guardrails, those standards there. And so now I'm trying to remember which specific question. I want to make sure I answer your question. So.
The question was, what's needed from communities around the state to help make these protections a reality? And I'll follow that up with, what's the most effective way for people to communicate these needs to the representatives? Like, we came to your office, right? Not everybody can come up to Tallahassee and be knocking on your door, but how can the general people get involved? Jan was talking about emails. Go ahead.
Emails, yes. First of all, I would say what Jesus said. Be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. Now, harmless doesn't mean weak. It means pure, having pure motives. And going in, most of the legislators there, even across the aisle, I sat and had hour-long conversations with them, and they totally agreed with me on our materials harmful to minors bill, which I am going to run again this year. And because we've got to protect our kids. Absolutely. And on our side, we won it on the House side. However, even those across the aisle, they agreed with me in private, but then because of the pressure of their leadership, they wouldn't even look at me while they were voting. They'd come and apologize afterward. We've got to win that argument. Truth has the power to prove itself. And that's what Charlie understood. And we can be winsome. So begin there. Now, you can always bring the vinegar, but start with the honey. Appreciate those. One of the main things is make sure, I had to win the leadership first. Who is my chair? And we had to win them or it's not ever going to be heard. And so one of the things, I think someone else spoke this on the gold and silver bill. The first one I went to, he said, I haven't had anyone from my district say anything about this. So this is one of the keys. We need to find out who the leadership is, who are the committees that the committee chairs, and we need people from their district to communicate with them, whether by email, you can call in. First of all, be nice to their staff. Their staff, and my legislative aide is here somewhere tonight. Be nice to them, because sometimes, you turn them wrong. We're jealous for our staff because they work hard. So just be nice and just say, listen, we appreciate what's being done, but we need you to be our voice. Don't just do this on the Republican side, because I hear this many times from the Democrat side across the aisle as we have these conversations. And they say, well, I'm reflecting the people that put me in office. They're not the only people, and it's moving further and further back to the right. But we need to make sure that it's heard. So make sure that you communicate if your district representative is a Democrat that may not reflect that. Make sure they know, hey, that's not the only opinion in our district. You need to represent all of us. And so, again, making sure that we're heard in that way, and using your phone, using your email, and make sure you come up there. Now, if you're good at the microphone, come up and speak briefly on that. If you're not, just wave in support or wave in opposition, whatever the issue is. But having a visible presence, and this is one of the things when, I had to sit there and stare down all the men dressed as women, and I'm sitting there thinking, God, they're fighting for their right to go to hell, and they don't even know. My pastor side is just sitting there. I'm praying for every one of them as they come up, but then I have to stand up and say, no, but we have to protect our kids, not back off from that. But literally, the other side would say, everybody feels this way simply because the other side packed the room. So when these important bills are there, make sure, if you're able, be present. And by doing that, it does move the needle.
Thank you, Representative Banks. And guys, we welcome your questions. We're going to do a rapid fire round here next, and then we want to get to some of those questions. So if you have them, you guys should have your cards. Go ahead and write on them. You can pass them off to a member of the team, and they'll get them up to us. So panelists, I'll ask you in this round to keep your answers to 90 seconds max, because I want to leave room for some of the questions we have from the audience. I don't have a timer, so I'm doing this on the trust system, right? We're doing the honor system. Okay. So Speaker Renner, I'm going to pick on you because you're a former speaker and you're also an attorney. We talked about the push-pull, right, at the federal and state level. So my question for you is, where should the state set a floor that districts can't go below on potential legislation?
Yeah, and I think we just have to keep studying this, but I'll repeat what I said before. I'm not sure where and we talked about, you mentioned lesson plans, or maybe some place where AI can help speed things along. But I'm really concerned about AI becoming a substitute teacher, and more importantly, a substitute parent. I'm as much or more concerned about that happening in the home. And I've started saying, with respect, again, making the analogy to social media, is that it used to be that the most dangerous place for your child was in a city park late at night by themselves. Now it's in their own bedroom with a door locked while you're sleeping on a digital device, thinking that your 12-year-old daughter is talking to another 12-year-old. They're talking to a 52-year-old man. And so, we just have to get, and it depends upon electing people like Doug Bankson, who can have a steady stream of those people coming in and all the lobbyists coming into his office that just says, stop, and I'm going to act on principle. And we have many men and women in the House and Senate that will do that. And it also is each of you, passionate parents, passionate grandparents who come in to Tallahassee and say, hands off my kids. You're not gonna do that to my kids, because that is our first priority on this earth. All the other things we do, if we fail in that mission as parents, they're on loan to us from God. We have to protect our children, and I'm telling you, there's no lobbyist or none that get paid very well for children in Tallahassee or in Washington, D.C. And you have people in this world that are saying social media is not addictive, just like they said tobacco is not addictive. They're going to say AI is our friend, not our enemy. It's incumbent upon you to having been here tonight, you've committed to it, to come to Tallahassee. We will listen, and your voice will matter to make sure that we get it right.
Thank you, Speaker Renner. Justin, I want to come to you. So we're talking about the push-pull from the state level to the district level. In your mind, if hypothetically we were moving something like this, what contract clauses should Florida require in every K through 12 AI tool that comes up? So would it be like no sale or secondary use? Some of this you mentioned when you answered your first question. Give us 2 or 3 things that you think should be in there.
First, real brief, I just want to say, make sure that if we're talking about at the local level, make sure you're voting your values for even your school board members. I want to start by saying that because they're the ones that are crafting policy around this. So I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't say that.
Thank you.
But then also, I'm a member of the Florida School Board Association, and we actually have a committee, ad hoc committee on AI and IT. And how we're studying that. In fact, we're also having a conference. Our conference this winter is going to be surrounding around AI. So the school boards in general across the state, this is a big topic. I just want to say that. Some of the guardrails, I mean, you mentioned some good ones in the question. I do want to show you, we've actually created this for our school board members from across the state. It's called an AI tool vetting considerations that we've passed this around to the different school boards across the state. And I'll be really brief. There are some areas and some questions you should be asking. Data protection and privacy, huge. We have laws already like FERPA. We have state laws that we have to deal with. Transparency of the AI model, also really important. District control over the AI outputs and data sharing. I told you before, we have to make sure that whatever data this is collecting from our students, they're not using that to train the AI model, because that could really cause problems for our students. Also, contingency planning. How do we discontinue the tool? Who owns the data after the tool's been discontinued? That's huge. Does that company, and that's going to come down to the contracts that the local school boards sign. Mm-hmm. So again, creating policy is great at the state level, but you have to make sure your values are also at that local school board level, because that's who's going to be, data privacy agreements, all that kind of stuff that we do. It has to be analyzed. So that's a few things.
Awesome, thank you. This is for Jan. Jan, what are the must-have features to prevent grooming and exploitation in school-approved AI tools? And what about the human review on the timelines when something is flagged?
I'm going to start with the first one last.
Okay.
ASAP, like immediately. For who here has kids in school currently? Okay, 5 of you. Ooh, 6 of you. So are you familiar with Gaggle? Okay, Gaggle flags stuff immediately, and every single school board has a process, right, of exactly what to do, when to do it. Same thing. It's going to have to be the exact same thing. I know because I'm in Orange County, so OCPS, we have our tech team, and we also have OCPS, Orange County Public Schools, law enforcement too, right? So it happens rapidly, because we know that if a kid's talking about self-harm, or if a kid's talking about other harm, that's a right now phenomenon. You don't wait on that, and it's, in my humble opinion, it's going to need to be the same thing. We have a policy when we go out and train that when a kid discloses to us, we're in immediate action, right? There is no waiting on this, because you have no idea where that child is in the process. And you're going to have to say the first half again.
What are the must-have features to prevent grooming and exploitation in school-approved AI tools?
That's a really hard one. After this last young man's death, and the parents are now suing the chatbot, I actually asked ChatGPT why it doesn't tell kids to go call 988 or 211. Why are you interacting with a child when they're talking about self-harm? And the answers were fascinating, okay? And it came down to, it even gave me code to send to other AI chatbots to make it more user-friendly for a child. It's really interesting. But it came down to who's ever behind it, who's ever programming it, who's ever looking at it, who's on, behind the scenes. They have to train the AI. They have to do the flag immediately. And our AI isn't doing that. The fact that this young man interacted with an AI chatbot for 6 months, and that AI, they never flagged the family, they never flagged anything. And we're going to go to what happened with Charlie Kirk. This young man was radicalized on Reddit and Discord. Why didn't either of those platforms flag something? unanswerable question currently because they don't have to. They're not regulated to do that. That's why there's a whole slew of legislative pieces that Kids Online Safety Act in particular that will put some guardrails up to protect our children, because that's what's missing is it's like they're just discardable, and they're our future. You can't discard our children. We just can't. And that's what seems to be happening from the tech space. They're going to spend millions convincing your leaders that this is okay. I'm an advocate. I don't have millions. I don't have that kind of cash. But what I do have is heart and spirit, and so do you.
Amen.
And so I'm going to ask you to take that mantle up, and you fight for our kids, and you fight for your nieces and nephews and grandkids like you've never fought before. For those of you that remember World War II or the Korean War, like it's that kind of battle, but in the spiritual realm and in the policy realm. You're the voice that's going to matter.
Thank you, Jan. Doug, I'd like to come to you, and I'm going to go off script here because we actually had some pretty good questions for the audience, so I'm totally going to put you on the spot. But we're friends, and that's okay. You'll appreciate this one. So the question from the audience is, how do we guarantee that if government decides what is moral or right or wrong, that it can't be used against us when another administration comes into power?
Great question. And I noticed you looked right at me at the 90 seconds. I'm a pastor and a politician, so get the hook.
I'm looking at you now.
Well, I think, first of all, we need to make sure we're talking about the guardrails. I'm actually taking a bill, Florida Citizens Alliance brought this to me. We're going to start with an opt-in bill. Rather than it be an opt-out where everybody's kind of automatically there unless someone's smart enough to say, wait a minute, we need to turn that around. Because, when you go in militarily, you've got to make sure that the landing zone is clear before the troops land. And we've got to make sure that our kids aren't the guinea pigs again. We've seen this too many times. I think it's specifically to that question, we have to be very careful. I think what we've got to do is make sure that the use of AI when it comes to education is limited to the informational rather than the directional. And if we can find a way to craft the wording in that right way and only allow that which, again, can help a teacher to better serve the students, can help bring information. I was thinking of William Wilberforce while we were sitting down there and how he was able to stop the slave trade. I think my 90 seconds is up. And I couldn't remember his name. What did I do? Turn to my little app. Put in there, who was the man that got rid of the slave trade? And it came up. So there's information that is very beneficial, but when it begins to weigh in directionally, that's where it crosses the line. In the same way, we don't necessarily agree, even religiously, about all of these things. So we want to make sure to keep the parents. God gave kids to parents. He didn't give them to computers. And so we've got to make sure that we protect the rights of parents and make the parameters, I say, more for information versus direction.
Doug, thank you so much. And I'm now being told that we're going to get the hook if we're not careful. We've got 60 seconds left. So I want to thank the panelists for tonight. We could have this conversation for hours, but I do hope that it was informative for the audience to understand that as much as the folks on the stage gave you advice and a take on things, it is critical that you do the work on your end as well. Do you have something? So a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you guys so much. Speaker Paul Renner, Jan Edwards, Justin Sharpless, and Representative Doug Bankson.